If he's not careful, he'll end up as one of the unlucky 15 who die on Britain's roads every day. But don't worry, it's only a frame-up staged by the Luton police in a campaign to make common sense catch on instead. Hold on yourselves now, folks. No signal, see, and luckily no approaching traffic. Who'll be to blame at this turning is anyone's guess. Of course, the kids should have signaled, but why not allow for errors on the part of kids? Films, demonstrations, personal visits, all are being used to educate road users to the importance of road safety. Bike inspection at the Stopsley Secondary Modern School is just part of their safety plan. And is this youngster lucky he's being pulled up before he finds he can't? So they prove in practice what they teach on screen and platform. This road safety quiz is part of Luton's great effort to get their ideas and their kids safely across. It's the start of a road courtesy patrol by the Luton police, part of an all-out drive to cut down accidents. At a time when casualties for the whole country have mounted to nearly 500 per day, Luton's figures have stayed low. But they only stay that way because of, hey, look out there! Whose fault was it? The lorry drivers for parking by the zebra, the motorcyclist for not using his loaf. Well, it's a lesson the lorry driver won't forget anyway. On-the-spot advice, that's one of the objects of these road courtesy patrols. Inspector Thompson, road safety organizer, has recorded enough of these incidents to fill a book. Road congestion, parking facilities which nobody bothers to use, awkward crossroads, those are Luton's main problems, but the solution to most of them is road sense. Watch the driver of that combination, for instance. Road sense, road courtesy, call it what you like. And if you're the injured party, you will. One more problem to be ironed out, one more lesson which will be taken to heart, or so the Road Courtesy Patrol hopes. What more can the police do? Lack of forethought is the trouble. See what I mean? Well, it was lucky for them he had good brakes. This kid might as well have no brakes at all. An undersized rider on an oversized bike is plain suicide from a motorist's point of view. It only needs another mistake and there, that's how accidents mount up. Luckily the postmortem's only on paper this time, but when you look at the layout of the roads, it makes you think, eh? To make everyone think is what they're after in Luton.
George Street today is a congested artery. Along this street pass the car workers to the factory, the wives to the shops, and the lorries en route to Bedford, Dunstable or London. The energies of leading citizens were directed into local government. Luton is now a county borough, a town running its own affairs. Civically, it's come of age. However, the signs of the new, improved Luton are beginning to appear. There are plans to build a distinguished shopping complex in the centre of the town. Whether Luton needs yet more shops in its centre was a subject of public argument. There is still no public theatre, no square for citizens to promenade around, no concert hall, no fountains. However, there is a beginning. The new Luton rises and facilities improve.
Development is going ahead very fast in Dunstable, but still the greatest single development the town has to contend with is the growth and use of the motor car. Dunstable is the major shopping centre for a catchment area of about 40,000 people, but this figure is on the increase and could even double by 1981. The shops, which mainly consist of new fronts on old properties, are strung along 3 or 4 roads leading to the A5 and A505 central crossroads. Amongst the shops are banks, churches, offices and civic buildings. Dunstable must be thought of as having 4 main shopping areas, each one separated by a moving barrier of traffic along Watling Street, Church Street and West Street. The largest single problem is to reunite these 4 shopping areas into one traffic-free shopping precinct. The areas behind most of these shops are either underdeveloped or comprise outworn property, usually of a semi-commercial nature. Rebuilding these shops to cater for the increasing population will solve nothing. Pedestrians would still have to walk long distances to get from shop to shop, and the traffic problem would still remain. The shopping centre's main defect is that it will be unable to cope with the motor traffic of the future. Action is necessary now. This central shopping area would never, in its present form, be able to function as a place where people could shop and carry on their business safe and free from the danger, inconvenience, noise and smell of the traffic. What can be done? Many possible solutions have been put forward, all assuming long-distance traffic would have an alternative out-of-town route. Widening Watling Street has been suggested, but in 20 years, traffic will have increased to such an extent that road widening would only give temporary relief, and in any case would violently oppose the principle of pedestrian-vehicle separation. Footbridges and underpasses for pedestrians crossing the A5 and A505 would not give a satisfactory central area environment, and the road width would be insufficient for future traffic needs. To leave the existing road system and build a semi-continuous pedestrian shopping deck on the first floor with servicing at ground level was one idea. A uniform ground floor height and solidly built existing buildings are required, neither of which unfortunately exist. What then are the principal objectives to be attained for the working solution of Dunstable's town centre problems, to enable the central area to be a place, such as this example at Stevenage, where people can shop, the businessmen carry on their work, and all be free from the smells, noise and danger of the traffic? Redevelopment must not allow the town to solidify in its present form. The first objective would be to divert traffic not stopping in the town centre to an alternative route, clear of the centre. How can this be done? In the summer of 1963, all drivers of motor vehicles either entering or leaving the Dunstable area were asked where they had come from and their destination. The built-up and surrounding areas of Dunstable were then divided into zones. The origin and destination of traffic into and out of each zone was tabulated from the answers obtained from the drivers of the vehicles. From this information, a diagram was drawn showing the main movements of traffic from zone to zone. The red bands show traffic which had stopped for business in Dunstable. The blue bands indicate non-stopping through traffic. The widths of the bands of colour show the amount of traffic between zones. Note the effect Luton has on Dunstable's traffic circulation. Minor points are the large flows of non-stopping through traffic along the A5 and the direct flow between Leighton Buzzard and Luton, which has to pass through the Dunstable area. These flows were then allocated to the existing street network. But this traffic is reckoned to increase threefold by the year 2000 if the present rate of vehicle ownership goes on. Remembering this, and that the A5 at present is working to the maximum capacity at peak hours, it will be seen that the existing road network will be incapable of carrying this vastly increasing flow. People working in shops, factories and transport undertakings and local residents are to be questioned in a further survey. This survey will find the relationship between the way land is used and the traffic it produces. It will then be possible to predict future traffic movements, so that detailed designs for roads, their widths and the number of traffic lanes can be determined. A new system of roads must therefore be planned now. Building development is going ahead so fast that an opportunity not taken now will be much regretted by future generations. First consideration would be a new urban motorway, constructed to pass along the foot of the Downs in the open country south of the Luton Dunstable A505. Secondly, Watling Street, or the A5, to be diverted east of the town centre, from Caddington Turn to Puddle Hill. These new roads, which will carry the main traffic flows, will be landscaped and developed as parkways, similar to this example on the A6 at Malden Wood near Clop Hill. Junctions will be designed to motorway standards. Frontage development, like this on the A505, will be banned on the new roads. This shocking example cuts into the green wedge between Dunstable and Luton. To distribute the traffic to shops, residential and industrial centres, a secondary system of roads will be required. The most important of these is the road connecting the London County Council development at Houghton Regis to the new town centre. This road will cross the A5 diversion road at a two-level junction and enter the town via Dog Kennel Walk. Construction of this road is to be started shortly. Another new road from Dog Kennel Walk to West Street will bypass the St Mary's Roman Catholic Church. To complete the bypass, traffic from West Street to Church Street will be diverted to the south of St Peter's Priory Church. This new system of roads will ensure the central business and shopping area of Dunstable remains free from all cross movements of traffic. The second objective must be to segregate local traffic from shoppers by traffic-free areas and provide shopping space for the present and future population. This has been done with success in many other towns. This is Stevenage, one of the first new towns to be designed with traffic-free shopping precincts. Coventry, the first town centre to be built after the Second World War, also segregating the traffic from the pedestrians. Bedford is also aiming to keep its pedestrians away from the traffic. It could be like this in Dunstable. These pictures show how Costain are tackling the problem on their site near the junction of the A5-A505 crossroads. It's one step further in the plan to provide Dunstable with a traffic-free shopping area. By 1981, shopping facilities for up to 80,000 people may have to be provided, and all within a traffic-free environment. To cater for this increase, about 150,000 square feet of shopping floor space will be required by 1981. About a third of this is provided by the Costain scheme. This model of the scheme shows one way in which it is possible to create a traffic-free shopping precinct, and one which will also serve the population requirements until 1971. Development is well underway. The third objective must be to provide extra car parking for the increasing shoppers and business people. There are many ways of doing this, such as this multi-storey car park at Bedford, which is most successful and has recently been doubled in size. Costains have allowed for adequate car parking to serve their pedestrian precinct. In Stevenage, delivery vehicles load and unload on either side of this shopping precinct. Allowance must be made for this service loading in Dunstable's pedestrian precincts. The fourth objective is to enhance and retain the character and historical associations of the town, much of which evolves around the Priory Church of St. Peter. All that remains of the Priory of St. Peter, founded in 1132. Here the divorce of Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII was proclaimed. These gardens adjoin the church, but there are also many other places. William Chew, a London distiller, built this school, now called Chew's House, for 40 poor boys. He also provided this row of almshouses for the needy of the town. These represent but a few of the places worth keeping. The fifth and last objective, to program the proposed development so that it can be carried out in self-contained stages over the next 30 to 40 years. Eventually building up to the final pattern so that by the year 2000, Dunstable could look like this. The combination of these 5 objectives will ensure that it is possible for Dunstable to adapt itself to the motor car age, along the lines laid down by the Buchanan Report. The whole plan can be put into operation cheaply and easily here compared with many other existing towns. It can also be done with a minimum of disturbance to existing uses. But action must be taken now to create a modern traffic-free centre to serve a large proportion of the people living in the south of Bedfordshire. Development is proceeding at such a pace in Dunstable that opportunity not taken now will be much regretted by future generations. Now is the time for Dunstable to look towards 2000. Not to look ahead to this. or this, or this, or this. But this. Dunstable has the problem. The people of Dunstable have the choice.
Dunstable was born of roads and transport and flourished for centuries. Then when the railways killed the stagecoach business, Dunstable fell asleep. It slept for nearly 100 years, and it was the arrival of a new era of roads and road transport that woke it up. The motorway age and the motor industry. Now that sleepy little town of 15 years ago is wide awake and kicking. By an odd quirk of fate, prosperity drifted into Dunstable over the town's border. The border, that is, that divides it from the motor town of Bedfordshire, Luton. Luton was once a tiny, almost insignificant neighbour, but then Dunstable made the mistake of rejecting railways. Trains, they said, would never replace stagecoaches. But Luton disagreed, and Luton's never looked back. And when its motor industry arrived, it grew and grew and grew, until finally it burst over the border into Dunstable. The result is that Dunstable now plays a key part in Britain's manufacture of lorries and vans. The bulk of the town's working population is employed in the industry. Many of them work here at Commer. Others work across the road at Vauxhall or in the numerous other factories in the town that make vehicle components. Most of these men are on piecework, and they earn from £20 to £25 for a 40-hour week, up to 50% more than the national average wage. It's a long time now since the motor trade suffered a serious recession. The big order books mean regular high wages. High wages have brought a sense of security to the industry, and both security and prosperity are reflected in the life of the town. Flat wage packets attract shops, and Dunstable has a large number. Still more are being built, not only to meet the demands of Dunstable's 27,000 people, but to attract customers from all round this rapidly developing district. Ever since Luton became a county borough, Dunstable has set its sights on becoming the leading town of South Bedfordshire, for cultural activities as well as shopping. This is its new civic centre, spacious, modern, colourful and elegant. This, the Civic Hall, was built at a cost of about £350,000. At the moment, it's the focal point of Dunstable's new image. It's the centrepiece of the town's plan to leap into the future, complete with a traffic system designed to cope with the problems of the future. In one way, it seems to be a reaction against the town's lost 100 years. In another, it's also a memorial to the fact that the first miracle play seen in Britain was acted here at Dunstable. The setting of the hall is beautiful, and its uses many, but not everybody in Dunstable approves of it. The Civic Hall is only part of a bigger plan to redevelop the complete town centre, and the entire scheme is the subject of controversy. The M1 is the third great road in Dunstable's life. The first was the Icknield Way that crossed the county from Wiltshire to Norfolk. Then the Romans built Watling Street, and it was at the point that Watling Street crossed the Icknield Way that Dunstable grew up.
Travellers used to use the priory that was once part of this church. It was a rule of the priory that bed and board should be provided for all travellers free of charge. Now, Watling Street has always been one of the busiest roads to London, and it was the very economics of this rule that finally helped to reduce the priory to poverty.
Shortly before the dissolution of the monasteries, Archbishop Cranmer came here to judge the extraordinary proceedings by which Henry VIII divorced Queen Catherine of Aragon. The writing of divorcement was fixed to the church door. Later, when stagecoaches speeded travel, Dunstable, occupying this key crossroads position, grew into a sizable town. Business was brisk and the town prosperous. Life seemed so perfect that few people here either wanted or believed in change. So they rejected the railways. Now the M1 has brought Dunstable within an hour's ride of London. Hundreds of Londoners have come to live and work here, knowing that they're only a short time away from the city and that they can buy houses in Dunstable for £1,000 less than they can in London. There are plans for thousands of London's overspill population to move into the area, and Dunstable is making every effort to encourage the newcomers to spend their money in the town. Dunstable and district can offer many attractions. It was in the latter days of Dunstable's Rip Van Winkle era that the gliders arrived, soaring silently in the sky over the town, as if in fear of disturbing its slumbers. This was the first gliding centre established in the country, and it brought yet another aspect of transport and travel to the life of the town. Only a few of the pilots live locally. Many travel down from London, and in fact the club is known as the London Gliding Club. The area is ideal as a gliding centre. It's easy to get to by road, its landing strip is right beside the Dunstable Downs, and the surrounding land creates just the right warm air currents to give the gliders their lift. It's a sport that's becoming more and more popular. Apart from its obvious attractions and excitement, it's the perfect way of avoiding the all too often noisy, frustrating clamour of the roads below. Just as many of the 400 members of the London Gliding Club come from miles and miles around to glide over the scenic Dunstable Downs, so too do many of the people who watch from the slopes. Though it's a fairly expensive hobby, it has an obvious fascination that adds to the attraction the Downs have held for men throughout history. But the biggest single attraction that brings fleets of cars and coaches along Dunstable's famous roads is this, the Whipsnade Zoo. Nearly 750,000 people come here every year. Some come for a week at a time, many for bank holiday treats, and others on day trips from schools throughout the region. And there's plenty to see. Whipsnade is internationally famous for its open-plan cages that are spread over 500 acres of the Downs. The main roads that cut across the district have always made the zoo easily accessible. And ever since it opened in 1931, the crowds of visitors have been getting bigger and bigger. Now the M1 has brought it within reach of still more people.
In an odd way, the constant streams of visitors who come here to the zoo to watch the gliding or merely to sit in the sun on the Downs are helping Dunstable to make up for lost time. Their persistent convoys, together with the other streams of traffic that go through the town and round the town, have helped Dunstable to realise its geographical importance for the second time in its history. And for a second time, too, the town realises that this is its means to prosperity. Dunstable may no longer hold the reins, but it can drive, and is driving now.